Hello, welcome to episode 6 of the Brand Spotlight. We have Dean of Authentically American here. How's your day today?
Well, Joe, it's going fantastic. I'm getting to talk to you, and we're on what's going to be my new lucky number six, episode six.
Thank you so much. So, before we get into the interview, obviously, I like to introduce the sponsor. The sponsor is the agency that I've built up over the last few years. It's a marketing agency. We focus on custom tailoring campaigns specifically for the brands. We found that most brands need a custom tailored campaign. The name of the company is Brands Connect. That's brands with a Z, BRANDZ. Without further ado, I already asked you how your day was, but we'll get right into the interview, Dean.
Fantastic, Joe. Looking forward to a great discussion.
Nice. So the first question I have is, in a sentence or two, how would you describe your brand?
So, Authentically American, we are a veteran owned, American made premium apparel brand, Joe. We've got amazing product, and it's all made right here in the US because we're passionate about creating American jobs.
Cool. Did you say it was specifically apparel?
Apparel specific. So, what I joke, Joe, that unless you live in a nudist colony, our brand applies to everybody. Every morning you wake up and make a very intentional choice on what you're going to wear for the day.
Nice. How long ago did you start this brand?
Well, I'm excited to be sitting here today because literally last month, July 2022, was our fifth anniversary.
Fifth anniversary. Wow. So you've been hustling for 5 years straight.
It has been hustling, and I will tell you, in one respect, I'm exhausted. It has been far more difficult, far more challenging, the most difficult thing I've ever done. But even more than being exhausted, I'm incredibly energized because we have an opportunity to build this incredible, iconic American brand. And since it's all American made, we have an opportunity to create American jobs and leave a legacy.
So I'm hearing American made and creating American jobs. Those seem to be the two core principles. Anything else I'm missing?
That is what it's all about, Joe. And to give you an idea how rare American made is, when I graduated from West Point in 93, over 50% of the apparel was made in the US. Today it's less than 3.
From 50% to 3%?
Down to 3. That's all. And that shocking statistic, Joe, gave birth to our tagline, "Where's yours made?" And it's designed to be provocative. And I like to say things like, "Hey, Joe, great looking t-shirt. Where's yours made?"
I'm not telling you.
Well, I make a lot of fun, friendly bets, Joe, and I win 97% of them. So we'll bet a coffee, a cold beverage of your choice, that I bet it does not say Made in USA.
We'll take that out after the show.
All right.
Thank you so much for that. Now, you said you graduated at West Point. Could you tell us more about that journey?
Yeah. So I was a hockey player at West Point, and that was my first exposure to the United States Military Academy. Was when the hockey coach called. And Joe, I had two goals coming out of high school. Number one, I wanted to play Division I hockey. And number two, I wanted to get the best possible education I could. And the education at West Point is one of the best in the country. And it's a Division I hockey program. And the more I learned about it, the more I just found out it was a perfect fit. So I was blessed to go ahead and not only make it in, but graduated in 1993.
So that's where the timeline of 93 comes in.
Yes, absolutely. So I graduated in 93, and one of the decisions you make when you graduate from West Point is which branch you're going to choose. And I didn't realize it, but there's a lot of choices. So there's 17 total. So there's infantry, for example, the heart and soul of the Army. There's armor, driving tanks, field artillery. So a lot of different combat arms branches. But there's also a lot of combat support and combat service support. So whether it's finance or transportation or logistics. And I really boiled it down to two choices. One was infantry. The other was aviation. So if you want to be a general in the Army, the best branch to choose is likely infantry. It's the heart and soul of the Army. It's where the largest branch is. But you remember that movie, Joe, Top Gun? Not the most recent one, but the original?
I'll pretend to.
All right. Well, that was one of my favorite movies growing up, and I thought I would look ultra cool in a flight suit. I thought I would look ultra cool, being a pilot. So that's ultimately what pushed me that direction, going the aviation route. but I kept wrestling if did I make the right decision. And when I was at flight school, the commander made an announcement and said, "Hey guys, once in a lifetime opportunity, we're going to have a competition and send one of you to Ranger School." And think of, Top Gun on one end and Rambo on the other end. So this was two opposite ends of the Army. And I was very fortunate when they had that competition. I won and had an opportunity to go to Ranger School and found out just how miserable it is when you're in that world. And I didn't know it back then, Joe, but Ranger School was such great training for leading a startup, because on day one, there were 340 of us, and for 72 days straight, lived on one meal a day and 2 to 3 hours sleep a night. And we went from 340 down to 70 of us. So we lost 80% of our class, and it was no sleep and incredible stress. And that's the life I'm living now, launching a new brand.
Wow. Impressive is all I can say.
I survived.
So you did mention it was, I hope I remember, it was hockey that you were initially interested in.
Yeah, I was an ice hockey player, correct.
Ice hockey. So was it more Top Gun, seeing yourself in the military, more ice hockey, or both?
It really was initially the ice hockey. I was young, I was immature, and didn't even, have the full appreciation and perspective of West Point and the incredible leaders West Point has trained. But when I got there and I started to not only, learn the history, but live the history and be a part of it, I fell in love with it. I'm obviously biased, but I think there's no better education than at West Point, especially if you want to be a leader and have an opportunity to serve your country. Incredibly blessed to have that journey. But to answer your question, it very much was initially the hockey.
It's fascinating how a lot of times we choose stuff in life based on hobbies, interests. I'll use the word shallow level, even though it's not shallow, to really develop a passion. And then it starts, we start seeing a bigger picture, a more value driven life, as opposed just developing our skills.
No doubt about it. And I think a lot of times we are so thankful and appreciative of those experiences, because it starts to bring you that perspective, starts to bring you that value. And that's what West Point was for me, spending 4 years there, spending 7 years active duty in the Army. And one of the intentional choices that we've made as a brand, Joe, we very intentionally donate 10% of our profits to veteran and first responder charities. And that's a way for us to honor American heroes each and every day. And the reason that choice was made was those 7 years active duty that I served. I have just amazing memories of the incredible men and women I worked with, who so selflessly raised their right hand to commit to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And it's those memories that ultimately led to that choice to donate 10% of our profits.
That's beautiful. Now that we spoke a little bit about your origin story, the mission of the brand, your origin story, I'm curious how you got from graduating West Point, becoming a leader in training, so to speak, and starting this brand, this mission-based brand.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Joe. I laugh because I tell everybody I'm a veteran, I'm an entrepreneur, but when I left the Army in 2000, I couldn't even spell entrepreneur. I didn't even know that whole world existed. And oftentimes we are a product of our environment. And I had an amazing dad, and he was a 30-year engineer for Alcoa, so a Fortune 100 company. And most of our neighbors, most of his friends worked for big companies as well. So when I left the Army, what did I think I was going to do? Work for a big company. So I worked for Procter & Gamble, worked on brands like Crest and Tide. Spent 6 amazing years there in business development, sales, and marketing, then also worked at Mars. Same consumer packaged goods industry, but brands like M&M's and Snickers and their pet food division. So phenomenal experience, but I didn't even know what entrepreneur was all about. But looking back, if you ever heard the term entrepreneur, I had this entrepreneurial spirit within this large organization. But this show that you're talking about here is the Brand Spotlight, and I'm so thankful, so appreciative of that experience at P&G and Mars, because both are just world-class marketing and branding companies, and it's that experience that ultimately has enabled me to go ahead and have some level of success now here with Authentically American.
Wow. So can you take us through do you have any specific examples or even some abstract things that you took from those 6 years in those companies?
So I think it really boils down to understanding who your customer is. And I couldn't afford, extensive, millions of dollars of consumer research. But prior to launching Authentically American, I owned a government contractor that was in the apparel industry. We produced dress uniforms for the military. And as I got immersed in the industry, what I really started to understand is there was an interest, there was a passion for American made. And I highlighted before, that fun, friendly bet we're going to make around 3%, how little is American made. I started to realize that there is a sizable part of the population that has values and ethos like mine. And that's really where the brand inspiration started, because we are a brand, Joe, that celebrates patriotism. We're a brand that believes in the American worker, which is why everything is American made. And we're a brand that honors our American heroes, which is why we donate 10% of our profits to veteran and first responder charities. But I should say, as much as we focus on the veteran owned, as much as we focus on American made and our values, none of that matters unless we deliver an amazing product experience. And Joe, this is the brand spotlight. So do we have time to do a quick kindergarten style show and tell?
Sure. But it
So
will be, I just want to say, I didn't welcome everyone. This is streamed on LinkedIn Live, it's streamed on YouTube, streamed on Facebook Live, and it will be repurposed as an audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, we just got on, Google Podcasts, we're on, really anywhere you can find a podcast. So whatever you show and tell, we'll just describe it, the audio for our audio audience.
awesome. Well, you can help me with this, but the most ubiquitous apparel item is the t-shirt.
Sure, I'm
So
wearing one now.
you're wearing one right now, and I'm going to hold this one up, Joe. And just to give some context, we have, I'm getting it here on the screen, but we have amazing product, and it's all American made. And I wish, Joe, that we were here in person together, because if you could feel this, you would be like, Dean, that has got to be the softest t-shirt I've ever felt. And that's by design, because who doesn't love a nice soft t-shirt? The other thing, if you can see the print, it's the Go Army print. And this is one of our collegiate licenses. So you can hardly feel the print. And Joe, think a lot of the t-shirts in your closet, graphic t-shirts, they have that heavy plastisol ink, and on a hot summer day, it sticks to your chest. You wash it a few times, it will crack. And we very intentionally use a soft hand water-based ink, because we want the shirt, the fabric, the print to be incredibly soft. So that's how all our t-shirts are. But let me do this. I'm going to spray, this shirt, and watch what happens. This is the sweat activated. So I'm going to spray it. And you can see
Very cool.
Beat Navy appears.
So just for our audio listeners, what happens is he sprays water, and then all of a sudden I see lettering on the shirt.
So magically this hidden message appears. So if you are an Army fan, if you're a West Point grad, one of your favorite things to say is beat Navy. And I love to highlight this show, because we talked about being veteran owned, we talked about being American made, but unless you have a wow type product experience, nothing else matters. And I will have people say to me, Dean, no offense, I don't care where it's made. The shirt's incredibly soft. I can't even feel the print. And then, wow, this technology. I mean, how in the world did you make that happen? That's incredible. But Joe, when you have an amazing experience like that, you want to learn more about the brand. And you look at the tag, and we only use tagless, but you will see Made in USA. And back to that 3% number, you will realize that nothing in your closet is American made. At that point, then you'll go to our website and learn the story and ethos behind our brand. But you don't get there unless you have an amazing product experience like this.
Nice. Wow. So I'm very happy. We went from a little bit about your brand, really your brand mission, focused on American made and great apparel, but not just American, creating jobs, and also the moving from the fact that the market moves from 50% to 3%. We learned about your origin story, a little bit about your going through corporate America, and now we just got into your product. So I do want to get right back into it. In the meantime, I do see we got a comment on LinkedIn. So I'm going to show it here and read it. It's a comment from Mike Van Horst. I commend you for Made in America. I wish I could make my product in America. I believe me, I have tried many times. Sad to say, my ROI timeline to have it made here would bankrupt my company. Hopefully, we as a country will work harder to help new startups and entrepreneurs be able to afford to have their products made here.
Well, I
Uh,
love Joe, Mike's passion, his interest, and I appreciate his support. And unfortunately, some things are just not viable. Some things are just not able to be made here. But, what I encourage is everyone to go ahead and, when possible, make a choice. The heart of our mission, Joe, is our passion for creating American jobs. We just happen to be in the apparel industry. And we want more and more people to make that choice. When they're out shopping, when they're making a decision on what they're going to buy, we want people to look at that tag. Back to our tagline, Joe, where's yours made? So, Mike, thank you for your comment, and I appreciate your passion for supporting and believing in American-made products.
and we'll follow up with you, Mike, and we hope to hear that you were able to solve all your problems in even a better way via Made in America. So that will be cool to follow up on your journey. Now let's go back into the show a little bit. By the way, we love engagement on LinkedIn. It really helps the show, or really engagement on whatever social platforms you have. So thanks for that. Now, a little bit about your product. I did love how, as much as you focused on the missions, on the charitable missions, you focused also on the quality of your brand. I actually find it disingenuous when people focus on the charitable aspects and they use that to market their brand, because then essentially they're not selling their products on the backs of a good product or services. They're saying, look at me, I do so much charity, buy from me. That's essentially what they're doing. And there was a famous, there was actually a case study where one of these big corporations spent $21 million advertising their $1 million donation.
Wow. It's shocking to hear that, Joe. And at the end of the day, what we first and foremost are is a consumer brand. So that's why we need to deliver that amazing consumer product experience. And I'll highlight one more example, because are you a big sock guy, Joe? Do you like wearing fun socks?
I could become one.
All right. So I'll show you this pair. So, we were talking a little bit earlier about being blessed with some incredible national TV exposure. So these fun patriotic socks, one is a red and white stripes. The other one is a blue and white star. So they're a mismatch. But the last time we were on national TV, 2 million people were watching, and the host said they are his favorite pair. And it was great learning for us, Joe, because he didn't mention anything about American made. He said they're so soft, they're so comfortable, they have this fun patriotic design. That's why they're his favorite pair. But similar to the t-shirt, when you have an experience like that, you will read the fine print and read, designed in Nashville, made in North Carolina. But unless you have an amazing experience, nothing else matters, and you never get to that point. And what has been so fun for me, Joe, is we sell, this exact pair on our website, authenticallyamerican.us. But what we sell even more of are custom socks, custom sweat activated shirts. Instead of go Army, beat Navy magically appearing, you can have your own magical message appear. Instead of these fun patriotic socks with our design, you can have whatever brand colors that your business, your charity, whatever organization you're a part of, so you can have. So I joke nobody wears ties anymore. Socks are the new ties, and just a fun way to express your fashion sense.
Cool. So now we're getting a little bit more into the products. I do want to go a little bit more into the origin stories, but let's skip ahead to your products. What are the different product categories that you have?
So we are all about apparel, Joe, and apparel, though, can be pretty broad. We've already shown a t-shirt. We've already shown socks. I'm wearing one of our favorite chambray dress shirts. So anything apparel, whether it's t-shirts, socks, quarter zips, hoodies, ball caps, anything apparel is where we play. But apparel alone is just a massive industry in the U.S. It's a $300 billion industry. So it is massive, but it also means it's ultra competitive. But a lot of our focus, a lot of our point of differentiation is specifically in the client, B2B focus. So whether you're a Fortune 500 company or a middle market or small company, whether you're a charity or other organization, for the most part, every business, every organization buys t-shirts. They buy polos with their company logo. And until we came on the scene 5 years ago, there really wasn't a high quality American made option available.
So, just to ask again, what are the so you have t-shirts, polos, dress shirts like one you're wearing now, and the socks that you showed me before. Are there any other categories that we haven't seen yet?
So quarter zips, hoodies, pretty much anything apparel related we offer.
Very nice. Now, when you say you've become the first in terms of American made for especially for custom companies for things like that, what is the price difference between the American made goods and overseas goods?
This is a great question, Joe, and we are parity priced, but that ends up being a business model choice. So people love that we're American made. They love our product, but we have to be parity priced because most people I've found they want to support American made products, but they don't want to pay double. They don't want to pay exorbitantly more. And the only way we can do that, have amazing product and have it all American made, is think back to Dell's old business model of go direct. They in essence cut out the middleman. And that's the way we make that happen. So you can't go to Amazon, for example, and buy our product. You can't go to Dillard's and buy our product. You can only buy it from a consumer side on our website, authenticallyamerican.us. If you're a business, Joe, if you're a charity, you are running an organization, you can't buy Authentically American from a distributor. We don't have a wholesale model because what happens if, Joe, you say, well, Dina, I would love a dress shirt like you have with the brand spotlight logo. If we were parity priced and then we sold to a distributor, what do? They mark it up. And then we're no longer competitively priced. So we are parity priced with known national brands like Nike, Polo, Under Armour. But the only way we can do that is a fundamental business model choice.
I think you just sold me on a t-shirt that says the brand spotlight.
Well, Joe, I know a guy that can help you out.
So I love that you're parity priced, and you did mention that in order to become parity priced, you have to really cut out the middlemen and do direct to consumer. I will ask more about that because that generally is actually very expensive to market direct to consumer. But I want to, like I mentioned before, I want to go a little bit deeper into your origin story. How did you go from working for Mars and what was that other company? I know
Procter
it.
& Gamble.
Procter and Gamble.
Yeah.
And you did mention that there was a shift on the way where you started doing contract, or I don't know if you actually did it or your friend did contract manufacturing.
I bought a business that was a government contractor.
That's what it was.
Yeah. But really, Joe, the catalyst for me being an entrepreneur was this insatiable desire I have to know that I'm making a difference. And when I worked at Procter & Gamble and Mars, I had fairly big jobs and was very well paid. But what I realized in an $80 billion company like P&G and a $40 billion company like Mars, what I realized, even though I had fairly big jobs, was well paid. If you pull me out, the next guy steps right up and the machine keeps going and it doesn't skip a beat. And I really wrestled with, am I truly making a difference if I'm not replaceable? And that was really the catalyst that said, I'm so thankful for the incredible marketing and branding experience I'm gaining, but I want to try something else. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to see if I can make a difference. I want to see if I can build my own brand. And that is really the vision behind Authentically American. We want to build this iconic American brand that's truly American made. We want to build this iconic American brand with the same recognition of a Nike, Polo, or Under Armour, but have it all made here in the US, helping create American jobs. And the thinking was, Joe, if we're successful in delivering on this vision, we'd create an immense amount of American jobs. We would also build this incredible brand, and in the process, we'd leave a legacy.
Nice. Now, I know you mentioned before one of the reasons why you got into the apparel business is because you're focusing on American made, and you saw that the data points were that it went from was it 50%?
50% in 1993 when I graduated from West Point, all the way down to 3.
To 3. But there were still so many other products you could have made, and you still could have been American made, and you still could have created jobs. Was there anything more than that data point that pushed you into apparel, or was specifically that data point?
So what it was, Joe, was me buying my first business, because when I left the Army, I couldn't even spell entrepreneur. And we talked about, this whole new world. But it was that experience buying an existing business, buying a government contract, and really having an opportunity to learn, the apparel industry, that I realized that there's an opportunity, and with the right vision, the right plan, the right, support from investors, we can go ahead and launch this incredible brand.
So wow, it's amazing to hear all the pieces of the puzzle really coming together to hear your whole brand story. It sounds like you're really focused on this mission. You felt a little bit of lacking in the corporate job, which you really liked. You gained a tremendous amount of experience, but it sounds like you were lacking that sense of fulfillment, and you wanted to take it to the next level. You bought a business in order to really to scratch that itch. You bought a business within the apparel space, and from that data point, you realized, wow, there's something missing in the marketplace. Did I catch that correctly?
You're a great listener, Joe. You captured it perfectly. So,
thank you. I hope I'm just as good of an interviewer. That's a really great story. Now I want to I want to get into how you brought it to market. I do want to see if there's any comments. No comments as of yet. I'm curious how you brought it to market, but in the meantime, you did mention something about getting investors. How was that process, and at what point?
So from day one, Joe, brought on investors. And reason being is, in order to go ahead and, in my mind, do it the right way, being able to make some right long-term decisions, we needed some investment capital. And I have pushed everything in that I have, using a poker analogy, all in. But in order to, provide for me and my family, we need to go ahead and have some level of stability from an income standpoint, and also have a longer runway from a brand standpoint. And I put together a business plan, put together a 3-year pro forma financial forecast, and I shared the Authentically American story in our brand, with a number of fellow West Point grads, with a number of friends. And we, in year one, in month one, raised $500,000 in capital. And that year one gave us the opportunity to prove out our business model and really find out that we were onto something. And you touched on something earlier, Joe, about, consumer brand focus, that marketing being very expensive. And that was a very true experience. And I'll tell you, one thing I learned at P&G was, if you're doing what I'm doing and launching a brand from scratch, it's incredibly difficult, because you don't have an audience. Nobody knows who you are. So, Joe, are you familiar with the brand Swiffer?
Yes.
So I'll tell you why you're familiar with it, because that brand was launched in 2002 when I was at Procter & Gamble. So it's 20 years later, and it's one of their most successful billion-dollar brands. But part of the reason it was so successful, the year one marketing budget alone for a Swiffer was $100 million.
Wow.
$100 million. And I thought, I have nowhere near that kind of money. And to your point, Joe, it's very expensive from a consumer marketing standpoint. And apparel being a massive $300 billion industry, there's no shortage of brands with deep pockets, whether it's Nike, Polo, Patagonia, Under Armour, Lands' End, Adidas. I mean, there's a lot of brands out there. But when I was doing my due diligence and doing my research, what I found, the $300 billion apparel industry is huge, but there's an $8 billion segment. And that $8 billion segment includes businesses, Fortune 500, middle market, small businesses, charities. So that $8 billion is what business owners and charity leaders spend on branded apparel. And my thinking, Joe, is I don't have $100 million. I don't even have $1 million to spend on marketing. So what I'm going to do is, I've invested in relationships over my career, have been so intentional about investing in others. So I know a lot of people who are executives. I know a lot of people who are business owners. So my business model was I'm not going to spend a lot of money on marketing. What I'm going to go is really tap into that network that I've built and go to business owners, go to charities, go to people that I know that are leading organizations and give them a choice, a high quality American made choice that's competitively priced. And fast forward 5 years later, Joe, we're a 7-figure brand and 80% of our revenue is B2B, is client focused.
Oh, wow. So it sounds like that was your initial investment and that gave you the runway to really launch correctly.
Yes, absolutely. And since then we've raised another 1.5 million in capital, so 2 million total. And so thankful we did that, Joe, because what was not part of that 3-year plan was COVID. Did not envision COVID happening. So that, was certainly a challenge because if you're a technology company, it's relatively easy to work with remote. It's really relatively easy to work virtual, but we have 11 factories across the U.S. So, I showed everybody this fun, amazing T-shirt that we make. We make those in Texas. Now, I showed you those socks. We make those in North Carolina. So, you don't operate a sock factory. You don't operate a T-shirt factory virtually. You have American workers there in person making this amazing product. So we still grew in COVID. We grew 40, 50% each year in COVID, but we had planned for 3x growth. So it was challenging to have it to shrink back down. So one, I'm thankful we survived, but also reinforced my belief in the American worker because in COVID, as hard as it was, our factories continued to produce amazing product.
I want to go back to your investors. I'm getting a little bit stuck on that because seems like the real thing that really propelled really the launch of the business. Were they sold more on the mission of the business or more on the investment aspect, the return on investment, or was it kind of equally down the middle?
Here's what I've found is that if you are a professional investor, you're a private equity fund, you are venture capitalist, something along those lines where your business is investing, you may review 100 deals and you may invest in one or two. So there's a lot that goes into the numbers and the business plan, but really what it boils down to is, do you believe in the jockey? Do you believe who in the leader? And probably our most well-known investor is Darrell Waltrip. If you're a NASCAR fan, Darrell Waltrip is a household name. He's a NASCAR Hall of Famer, and he's a fellow Nashville neighbor and was introduced to Darrell as we were raising our second round of capital. And I still remember, Joe, 10 minutes in, he said, "Dean, I'm in." And I'm like, I didn't even get to the punchline. I'm like, "Darrell, tell me why." He goes, "Dean, first and foremost, I believe that your values and what you're prescribing to with Authentically American is a reflection of who I am. I believe in the American worker. I believe in this country." And he said, "Equally important, I believe in you. You've got incredible passion. You've got phenomenal experience from Procter & Gamble and Mars, and I'm placing a bet on you. I'm placing a bet on the team you're going to work." So I think you obviously have to have a great business plan. You have to have the numbers are there. But if you are looking to have investors, they have to believe in you.
Did you find that process challenging?
So anytime you're asking money from somebody, it's challenging. But I tell everybody, if you find what you love, find what you're passionate about, you know, not that it's going to be easy, people are going to see that. And that's probably the feedback that I've been given is that how have we been on national TV, not one or two times, but 17 times? It's the passion. They're like, "Dean truly believes in what he's doing. He believes in his mission. He believes that we can create American jobs. He believes that he can build this iconic American brand." And that was the same way with investors. Hey, it may be risky because manufacturing apparel is ultra competitive, but I believe in Dean. And it's been the hardest thing I've ever done over the last 5 years, Joe, but we're so thankful, one, that we survived 5 years. And what was phenomenal is Forbes magazine for our 5th anniversary, did a feature story. And that is such a well-respected, trusted business trade journal. That has probably been one of the highlights for my 5 years is having a feature story in Forbes magazine.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Very cool. Wow, there's so many moving parts here, and I really want to get to all of it. So I do like the there's really two ways I want to go here. There is a reason why that people list on Amazon and don't go direct to consumer, like I mentioned before. If you list your product on Amazon, yes, they take a nice chunk, but they introduce it to their marketplace.
Oh
You
yeah.
don't have to do the marketing. Whereas when you market it yourself, what I hear from direct to consumer brands is that it's extremely expensive to do that. How have you found that process? I know you did, it does seem you got a lot of organic earned media, but really, did you have to do any paid? Any social? How did that tie into your integrative bringing to market, go to market approach?
Well, Joe, to your point, to reinforce what you're saying, is we tried some targeted social media ads on the consumer side. For example, this fun, Go Army, Beat Navy sweat tee. We also had Alabama where Roll Tide appears. So we thought this is going to be phenomenal. The product is so unique and differentiated, and we're going to do some targeted social media ads. And it failed miserably. We never got above a 2.0 ROAS. So we were barely treading water and just found out we were wasting a lot of money. So it is incredibly difficult. And that's why, as a brand, we love it when we wake up in the morning and there's all these orders that came in overnight. You make money while you're asleep. But the bread and butter of our business is the client side, you as a business owner, you as a charity leader. So that's our focus there. So we have pulled back on any, direct to marketing advertising because it's so incredibly challenging.
So it really seems like it was a direct sales approach to B2B clients that really built up your brand, and off that back you got earned media and people who bought into your mission. Did I get that correctly?
Oh, absolutely. And what's nice, Joe, is when you have a consumer side of your brand and you have a business side, they cross pollinate and they feed each other. And I'll give you one example. That fun, cool shirt that you love where, Go Army's printed and Beat Navy appears. So had a fellow West Point grad who purchased one, and he's like, Dean, this is phenomenal. I love it. It's an amazing product. And he said, can you do a custom one for our company? And I said, well, absolutely we can. That's the core part of our business. He's like, that is amazing because we have this whole health initiative. So we sold 1,000 custom shirts for his company using that technology. So that's one example where it started on a consumer side, and ultimately led to a business opportunity. But on the flip side, for example, we have Wounded Warrior. You likely have heard of Wounded Warrior. They're an incredible veteran-focused charity. They're a client of ours. We have a lot of other veteran charities. And one thing we do, since we're passionate about giving back, when we partner with a charity like Wounded Warrior or Team Red, White, and Blue or Tunnel to Towers, we provide our goods and services at cost.
Oh
And we don't
wow.
make any money. We cover our costs. We feel great about giving back. We feel make a difference. But one thing I didn't anticipate, Joe, is we've got incredible brand exposure because when somebody buys a Team Red, White, and Blue or Wounded Warrior shirt and they have an incredible experience, they're like, Authentically American, I've never heard of them. And then they'll go to our website and they say, I've had such a great experience. Let me buy something else. And then they'll buy a second, third, fourth item. But, it really starts there for us on this specific segment of our business, from being able to provide it at cost and then, growing from there.
I do want to get a little bit into the competitive landscape. I do imagine that the reason why the numbers moved from 50% to 300%, I see we're stuck on that, is because it's harder to make a shirt in America, both profit wise and quality wise, or whatever it is. It's just harder to do it. What have you done uniquely different that you were able to pull this off and others haven't?
So it is much more expensive, Joe, to produce here in the US versus overseas. So, for example, if the cost to produce in the US is here and the cost to produce in China is here, there's a gap. But what happens is when you import a product, there's duties and tariffs that move that up. And then if you are reselling it to Amazon, if you are selling your product to a distributor, then that marks it up. So back to that discussion about Dell and going direct, we don't have a middleman. We don't have a markup. So we are able to have amazing product, have it all American made, and be competitively priced because of that business model choice. So back to Pepsi, for example, being a client of ours, or Comcast or Bridgestone, most of their apparel is purchased through a third-party promotional products distributor, and that is a for-profit business, and they mark it up. But if we sold there, they'd mark it up, and we'd no longer be competitive. So that's how we're able to have amazing product and also be competitively priced as a business model choice.
That's fascinating that you're really dialed into really keeping healthy profit margins, and via keeping healthy profit margins and not basically not allowing any middlemen to intrude, so to speak, you're able to really have a sustainable business. But back to the point of bringing it to market. So it sounds like you went the direct sales approach. That
Yes.
really cross pollinated into the direct sales for business. That cross pollinated into people seeing people having it at those businesses and people ordering it. That got you a couple TV appearances, lots of earned media. Is there anything else that you've done, whether it's trade shows or other forms of paid or integrated marketing?
So the one area that we do, Joe, that would be more in the paid is we're big into trade shows and events. And reason being is what we found the challenge on digital marketing is you don't have that opportunity to feel and touch. And having a consumer product, remember when I said, Joe, if you could feel this, you'd be like, Dean, that's got to be the softest t-shirt I've ever felt. Same thing when the host said these are his favorite socks, he talked about how soft and comfortable they are. When we're at a trade show or an event and we can have product samples there, that makes all the difference in the world, because then Authentically American, this concept, becomes a real tangible product they can see and feel and touch.
Then why wouldn't it? I'm going to press a little bit on this issue. Then why wouldn't it make sense to get into stores as much as possible and let the middlemen get their cut?
We just don't have enough margin in there to make it work. So one of two things happen. If we need to be competitively priced, we can mark it up and we're no longer competitively priced, or what most brands do is say, we're going to take a haircut. But there's just not enough margin in there being American made to go ahead and make it happen. So what convinced me that this is the right approach, you mentioned Amazon. I mean, Amazon has built an incredible marketplace. And to your point, they do all the marketing, so you don't have to go to market yourself. So if they go to Amazon and they're looking for your product, Amazon's going to make sure they find you. But what we want to do, Joe, is we want to have these brand evangelists. We want to have these passionate fans of our brand. And what we have found, that if you're going to Amazon and you bought Authentically American, you're not a customer of ours. You're a customer of Amazon. And although it may be a little slower early on because we don't have that distribution at Amazon or other retailers, when people have an amazing experience, they know the only place they can go to get it is our website. The only way they can get it as a business is to work with our team. That's when we long-term have customers of ours.
So it does sound like that the stores is just not profitable, but it is profitable to spend money on the trade shows. And it's an interesting paradox, is you are spending money to go to locations, but in a very controlled and limited sense. And do you do like a variety of trade shows, whether it's let's say for example military boutiques and gift boutiques, or do you focus on any one specific?
I'll tell you, Joe, one thing that we had to do during COVID was focus. And I'm the worst offender. I am, easily distracted. If there's a new opportunity, I'm like, well, what was that? And I'll go chase it and pursue it and wonder. And, what we found is we were trying to be all things to all people. And back to that client, that business side, what we really found as we went through COVID is the one word that really resonates with our brand is veteran. And what we found is veteran-owned businesses, veteran-operated businesses, veteran-focused charities. That's who really responds and really gets and understands our brand. So that's where we focus all our time and energy. So we will, for example, go to the AUSA conference, which is the Association of the United States Army, not because we're selling to the Army, but fellow exhibitors there. Think of a Boeing, a Raytheon, a Lockheed, or all these middle market companies. What do they buy, Joe? What are they wearing there? A polo with their company logo, a dress shirt with their company logo. So that's an opportunity for us to get exposure, but also interact with a lot of those exhibitors who then become future clients of ours.
Wow. So you really, it sounds like you really, your marketing strategy, as much as you experimented with many things, really, it sounds like you really doubled down on the direct sales approach. The only real thing that you did differently is over time you learned to really focus on the veteran space as opposed to any other space. Did I get that correctly?
You got it. It's all about focus right now, and that's what we need to be because we do have some investors on board, but for the most part, we're a bootstrap startup. So we made it make sure that every dollar we're spending is really focused on where it needs to be.
Wow. I really feel like I really got a comprehensive picture. You were really able to convey it in a very succinct manner. So that's pretty cool. Is there have you seen any other changes from the way you started to now in terms of bringing it to market?
The biggest one is just focus because we were looking at all industries, we were looking at all different clients, all sizes, but it's really gets back to focus, and that focus on veteran is where it really starts. And looking that also on the consumer side, so we have collegiate licenses, we have 12 different schools. So I showed you the West Point one. That is hands down our best seller. We also have Alabama, which has a much bigger following. We also have Auburn with a much bigger following. But our best selling are Army, Navy, Air Force, VMI, Citadel. So all the service academies, all the military schools. So that's where we're focusing our time and energy.
Wow, that's so cool. Do you feel like you should have done that earlier on, focus on the veterans, or do you feel like that experimentation process was really important?
Well, I think there's always value in experimenting and learning, but if I wasn't so hard-headed and so easily distracted, I think we would have focused a lot earlier. And that was one thing that COVID was a benefit for us. It forced us to focus.
Very nice. How do you see the brand? How do you envision the brand in the next couple years?
Joe, we talked about one word veteran. The other word is all about growth. And I was thankful for the opportunity you reached out. I know your audience is still building, but I know we had Mike Van Horst who tuned in and was probably the first time that he heard about our brand. So we want to continue to grow. We want to continue to delight our customers. So as we continue to have more success with earned media, more Forbes magazine articles, more national TV exposure. Tomorrow, not tomorrow, but Thursday this week was invited back on Fox and Friends. So 2 million people, Joe, will hear our story. So it's all about growing and spreading the word. But the way we get second, third, and fourth time repurchases is when we deliver that amazing product experience.
Nice. It does sound like getting back a little bit into your direct sales approach. Is it mainly you? Are you still the one busy with the direct sales, or did you build out a team to focus on that?
So Joe, I was the first salesperson. I will always be the best salesperson. Maybe not bringing in the most revenue, but I will be the one that is the most passionate. So I'm still involved, especially on our big ones. But as we continue to grow, we are building our team. And that is probably the most important point I need to reinforce because the inspiration, the vision started with me. But the only reason we're here right now talking, Joe, is the incredible team that is working at Authentically American. And I wish they were all here right now because you would hear that same level of passion, that same level of energy. And from a client standpoint, we have virtual calls with our clients every day. And what I love is to get an unsolicited email, an unsolicited call or text that says, Dean, I love it working with you. And I like to use that old Staples commercial analogy with the easy button. They will say, Dean, I love your brand. You've got an amazing product, but your team just made it so easy. And that's when you have that type of experience. You've got an amazing product experience. You've got an incredible customer experience. That's when you come back and purchase again from us.
Wow, that's amazing how you really focused on your team. What there is something I do want to ask. How do you miss the millions of dollars that you had available spending to spend on when you were at P&G and Mars?
I'd be lying if I said no, Joe. Absolutely. I mean, there was some level of comfort and a lot less sleepless nights. When you've got that, big organization and those deep pockets behind you. But back to that desire to know that you're making a difference, that's what I'm so excited about. We've survived the first 5 years, and we truly are making a difference, Joe, because if you move the decimal point out one more decimal, so in 2017, the percent made in the US was 2.7. 5 years later, it's now 3.5. It's grown 30%. And we're not the only ones driving that growth. I believe we've been a huge catalyst behind it, but that's what has me excited. We're having an opportunity to create American jobs, truly make a difference and build this iconic American brand.
That's amazing. Do you see yourself continuing on this path of being very, very conservative marketing wise, or do you see yourself and being able to grow extensively by focus just on really building out obviously your operations, but then really building your direct sales team, and or do you see yourself eventually becoming one of those big players, and spending more money?
We will absolutely, Joe. We've got to figure out the marketing. We've got to have a better return on our spend. I mean, marketing is such a critical function, but right now we're having such success. Just focus on the direct sales and earned media. That's where the focus is. But as we continue to grow and expand, we will have a whole marketing matrix. We'll continue to spend on events, but we'll dedicate a portion towards digital. There may be billboards or TV. I mean, who knows what that mix is, but that will be a critical piece for us to grow and expand because you can't hit enough trade shows and it's not truly scalable versus if you can run a digital ad and have not only thousands but millions of people see it. That's where we need to be.
Wow. So I'm just asking that because I come from a
Sure.
marketing perspective, so I'm always curious about that part. But I really, really liked how you're really able to focus in and zoom on. This is my profit model. I know exactly what it is. This is my profit margin. I know what it is. I can't let anybody vulture into it. And based on that, really decide where to be at this point in your business. Thank you so much. We're closing in on the hour. Actually, it's been so much fun.
My
Any
pleasure, Joe.
any parting words, and where can we find you?
So I guess a few parting words. One, Joe, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you and love what you're doing and spotlighting brands, and we're honored to be a guest. And number two, I mentioned my team. I mean, I'm blessed with an amazing team. And the third thing is I want to thank each and every individual customer, each and every charity, and every business that's ordered from us because they are the ones that ultimately that have enabled us to grow. They're the ones that have enabled that increase from 2.7 to 3.5%. And if you want to go ahead and order from us, if you want one of those cool t-shirts that we did a demo from, go to authenticallyamerican.us. If you have your own business, you're an entrepreneur, if you're running a charity, same place. Go to authenticallyamerican.us and you will find more about us, and we would be honored to partner with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much one more time. Thank you to the audience for tuning in to episode 6 of the Brand Spotlight. We are originally streamed on LinkedIn Live, YouTube, Facebook, and then we are restreamed on all the audio podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and essentially your favorite podcast app. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Joe.